Welcome back to our discussion, Federal Digital Transformation in a Post-COVID World, sponsored by Appian here on Federal News Network. My guest today is Jason Adolph. He is the Industry Vice President for Global Sector at Appian, and I'm your moderator, Tom Temin. And Jason, let's get into the low code, some of the details of it, because it sounds a little bit like black magic, the way you describe it. Drag and drop boxes, and suddenly you have a massive scalable application for federal size use. Tell us what it is exactly and how it fits into the application development needs that federal agencies have, as we've discussed in this rapid post-COVID world.
Sure. You know, what I think is the irony is, we have an awful lot of people here that are building the product to make it so that a very few amount of people can have that black magic experience. So, what we've essentially done is we've essentially abstracted the code from having to be understood by an end user. And so what our end users are seeing, and our designers, people application designing in Appian, what they're seeing are visual tools. You're designing applications with flowcharts. You're designing business rules in decision tables. You're kind of dragging and drop form elements to build interfaces and the such. And what's happening under the hood is we're interpreting all that and turning it into the application. In the past, what you would have done is you would have built those components, and then you would have been doing that in the code, and then debugging it or running it to see what the output is of the code that you had coded or you had built. We're doing it the opposite way, which is we're showing you the output, and we're generating the things that Appian needs to understand and run that application. So our users and end users and developers don't see code. There are some options where if they want to do some things and they're more comfortable working in that environment, they can, but it's not required as part of the building of applications. We've done that not only with, things like workflow and business logic and interfaces, but also even the integrations that we provide. So, we're providing, here's the next buzzword, no code integrations to a lot of major software packages. So if you want to integrate with other, enterprise software, it's very simple. And we're not requiring you to have to understand how to push and pull data between those tools. We understand that our customers have lots of, good investments in other IT tools. And so we're trying to make it easy to play nicely with all of those things. And I think that just reduces the friction of adding low code tools into an IT landscape.
Now, when developing applications the traditional way and the slow way and the by hand way, if you will, even if there's large teams working on it, there are several functions that go along with just the coding. For example, compiling, quality control testing, and maybe most important of all in these days is cybersecurity checks to make sure there's no buffer overflow capacities and all kinds of bugs that can come in that affect cybersecurity. How do those functions and those checks and balances and quality control checks happen in something that's basically happening underneath the scene there, and when you're just designing the workflow at the macro level, if you will?
Yeah, and it's a great point. So when we're deploying applications, I think the most important thing is to give the customer choice. I mean, we have some customers that are not IT shops; they're business shops, and so they need us to handhold them through all of those things. So we're providing them, a FedRAMP environment for cloud. We're providing the way to test their business logic and their workflows directly from, the front, from the design environment. There's not necessary to compile things, and we're helping them with what we call it a health check within the application that, visually shows somebody how their application is performing versus what we consider the best practices. But we also have customers that are very sophisticated IT shops, and they have DevOps pipelines and DevSecOps pipelines. And so we also include tools that allow those organizations to integrate the Appian development into those very sophisticated development shops. So again, what you're hearing is it's a lot of trying to satisfy multiple constituencies in development. One is that business user and giving them control of the application, but it's also for large IT shops that are using our platform to do what could be dozens of applications on that set of shared infrastructure.
And suppose, say, 3 weeks or 3 months down the line, you need some maintenance to the application, or you need to add that function, that new group of recipients to a federal program, or whatever the case might be, that new data source. It sounds like that can be effectuated much more simply than it would be in the integrated development days of waterfall development.
Sure. Yeah. Yes. And the other thing I'd be remiss in bringing up is the idea of automation and integrating AI and RPA and things like that. So what's happening is all of our customers are hearing about these technologies, and it again also almost seems like vaporware to them. Where they're used to using commercial things. They go to Amazon and Amazon tells them what detergent to buy, and they listen. In business applications, somebody tells me what I'm supposed to do next in my job. I'm a little bit more hesitant there. But what we've attempted to do is make it easier for our business user community to feel comfortable integrating robotics and artificial intelligence and RPA and blockchain and all these things into their applications in not just a takeover manner where those tools are making the decisions, but also in an assistive manner where they're providing recommendations and they're providing assistance to the work. And when we talk about this post-COVID world, one of the things that you're seeing, and you brought up earlier in the discussion about the PPP lending, is just the backlog of things, and humans can only do stuff so fast without adding more human capacity. And so I think we're seeing now more of a comfort level for what we call full stack automation, which is the low-code plus AI plus RPA bots to assist an agency and assist a workforce in not only reducing the administrivia of their work, but doing it faster. And so we're building the application faster. We're allowing them to perform the work faster, and ultimately, it's just a better value for the taxpayer and what they're getting.
Sure. And a final question, I think we've covered a lot of territory here. Can you get into code so developed in case you need to document it or you need to understand it in some way? Because often there's that need, for whatever reason might come up later down the line, to understand what the code is doing. And that's possible with self-generated and low-code generated products.
Absolutely. I mean, so one of the big things, and I've seen this in my career, is government programs, especially politically charged government programs, get audited all the time, and so we want to make sure that the outcomes that are generated from business processes that are going through Appian are verified. You can verify them, and they're auditable, and so we are version controlling every object. So we're version controlling the business rules. We're version controlling the business processes. We're making it such that if the inspector general came and asked me, why did Tom's benefits application produce this determination, I can go in and show that person exactly what the system did, exactly what version of the rules were there, and even the self-documentation that's generated by our tool as to all the things the back-end system did, how the systems interacted. Yeah.
In a word, then, it is really enterprise grade.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for a great discussion. My guest today is Jason Adolph, Industry Vice President for Global Public Sector at Appian. Good to have you with us.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
And I'm your moderator, Tom Temin. You've been listening to Federal News Network. For more on this discussion, visit federalnewsnetwork.com and search Appian.